And good afternoon, everybody. How we doing today? I'm
Uh,
Ben.
I am Patchman Lawrence.
I am Reginald.
And welcome to episode 2 of the Sports Insanity Podcast. We got a great show for you today, don't we, guys?
Oh, yes. It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon, and we have a great show planned for you.
You know what? Do us a favor. When you're done, go outside and do something. Am I right?
Well, as long as you social distance, then...
Yes. Remember, everyone, if you run into someone, 6 feet. So we got a great show for you to talk. We got my friend Matt Martell, who's going to join us in a second. We're going to be talking about the impact of the pandemic on sports. We're going to be talking about NFL power rankings, the XFL, and the U.S. women's soccer team incident. Before we start, I just want to thank everybody for the positive feedback of our soft launch last week.
Yes, very positive feedbacks.
And we haven't been kicked off the internet, so that's a good thing.
Thank God.
We've been doing everything right so far, so...
Fingers crossed.
So, so sit back, relax, and enjoy! So, you missed that one, didn't you, Patch?
Enjoy.
So, we're going to get down to business now because we got so much to talk about and so little time. So,
Oh, there's time.
You know what I meant.
I know.
So, anyway, I think that we should get the ball rolling. Joining us will be our first guest ever in this format, our very first guest. Wow, we're only 2 episodes in and we're already having guests. We're moving up in the world.
Amazing.
It's
Fantastic.
awesome. Joining us today is my good friend Matt Martell. He is a sports writer for Sports Illustrated. Matt, you there?
Hey, Bill, how's it going?
Hey,
Oh, look at that. I like that. That's perfect.
Good to see you, Matt. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing fantastic.
Hang it in there.
So,
All
Matt,
right.
before we get down to business, why don't you tell everybody a little about yourself?
Well, I'm a baseball writer for Sports Illustrated. I've been here for a little over a year. I started in February, the day after the Super Bowl last year, when my Rams, I'm a huge Rams fan, lost the Super Bowl. I started working at SI the next day. So at least I had to forget about it. Right, I had to forget about it pretty quick. Yeah, exactly. So.
Okay, so Matt, it has been kind of a weird time working at Sports Illustrated around this, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I thought that this was going to either last, maybe a month or two, maybe hopefully less than that. I thought there would be a delay, but I didn't think it would be as prolonged a shutdown from sports as it has been and as it will continue to be. I probably didn't know that until a couple weeks after the entire sports world shut down. So it's been weird. It's been busy though. I'm surprised that working for a sports website magazine has been as busy as it has been when there are no sports to cover. There's a lot of stuff going on in the sports world. We're tracking when sports are going to continue. The NFL draft was last weekend. And then there's the Red Sox report came out from MLB, their investigation. So there's been a lot of stuff happening in sports, even with no actual competitions happening.
It's a very strange thing. Am I right, guys?
Yeah, well, like we discussed last week, we were talking about how there's no sports, and then you have ESPN doing their Ocho gig, which is actually back again today. It started at noon, I think, on regular ESPN.
And you were watching it, weren't you? Every second, Patch, right?
Well, after we're done with this thing, I'm gonna be watching for a while before I hop on Xbox and start playing a few games with a few of my friends. But I agree. It's just a weird time we're in.
So Matt, how many different models are there tracing when sports are going to be back?
Well, how high can you count? The models are almost infinite just because there are so many different intricacies to each proposed plan that if one thing changes, then the entire plan has to change a little bit. and people don't really know how the virus is going to progress and adapt, and how when that happens, these plans to return to sports are going to change. Baseball has the.
Do you know any of the different plans?
Yeah, so baseball has the Arizona plan, where it wants to either play an abbreviated season from all of the spring training facilities in Arizona. They also have a variation of that plan where they play in 2 or 3 different states, Florida and Texas being the other 1 or 2. It would probably go in the order of Arizona, Florida, and then if they played in a third state, it would be Texas, because they have the facilities there. The weather is, I guess, better, especially for summer baseball. The states have been a little bit more laxed, whether that's a good thing or not. The states have been a little bit more laxed about restrictions, and it would probably be easier for baseball to return there if it did. The problem with that is how much they'd have to contain players, coaches, media members, umpires, which people tend to forget about in all this, and travel, and
because umpires is the job nobody wants.
Right, but they're absolutely essential to this. And if you can't play a game in any season right now, but in an abbreviated season especially, without umpires, because if they're playing at spring training facilities, you don't have instant replay technology set up the same way, and they're not going to really set it up. They're definitely not going to use robotic umpires when they haven't had the technology yet perfected in Major League Baseball. They're not going to use that in this abbreviated, maybe 100-game max season. So umpires actually become a lot more important here in this type of setting. So you absolutely need to figure out how you're going to get them involved. My colleague Stephanie Apstein wrote a story about this that went up last night about umpires, how they are in poorer health just by being in an older demographic, and they're not professional athletes. So they're probably a little bit more susceptible to the impacts of the coronavirus anyway. So you'd have to figure out how to protect them and their families, because
absolutely.
So there's a lot of different pieces moving. You're definitely not going to have baseball games or probably any sporting events with fans. And even then, it's difficult to figure out how to put on a sporting event and a sporting season. I think the other thing is there's a difference between putting on one sporting event, a baseball game, a football game, whatever, and having an entire season, even an abbreviated season. Because sure, you go through one game, one practice, one tournament even without somebody getting sick, but now you have to do it again the next day or the next weekend. And it gets a lot more difficult to keep people from getting a virus that is so hard to track.
That, and also, the idea that, the owners have been very adamant about is the testing. The
Right.
cities have been about is testing. That we need more testing in order to ensure that, when the players play, everyone is either safe from the virus, or if they're not safe from the virus, they're isolated from the teams. And it's kind of, it's very strange. It's very strange. And I know that, a lot of these areas, in the United States are very condensed. They're very congested. So it's going to be hard to play in those cities, which is why
Absolutely.
Going to Arizona, Texas, or Florida, is probably suitable, but I guess not. It's hard. It's hard. It's not very suitable for a lot of teams, especially teams that don't want to be away from their families.
Yeah, well, here's another part of it that could be tricky. Who are the 5 pitchers in the Yankees rotation this year? One of them, Masahiro Tanaka, is currently back home in Japan. It was probably, he thought it was safer there, less condensed. He can be in a more comfortable setting. So he got out when baseball shut down to be with family, to, all of that. It makes sense for him to do that.
Back in either.
Well, right, it depends on how and when they open up. So and he's definitely not the only international player in baseball. I don't know how many of them went back to their, native countries, but at the same time, it's going to be difficult to get every person involved back to start a season. There are a lot of variables, and there are more things that are going to come up once you try to start implementing a plan that
you
people
have
didn't
the safety of the players and the fans
Right.
as top priority.
Right. And I just don't know exactly how it's going to happen when everything's going to come back. Hopefully soon. I really want to watch baseball, and I don't really want to keep watching the 1995 ALDS where the Mariners walked off the Yankees. I've seen that 3 times already since quarantine started. Great game, and I have no problem watching a game, a great game from the past. But at some point, I want to see new competition.
God, you're bringing this up to me, Matt, and as a Yankee fan, that is very painful.
Yeah, figured enough time's gone by.
But the other plans is the division realignment. Is that
right?
I heard they might put the Yankees and the Mets in the same division, or
this was first reported by Bob Nightingale of USA Today. He's the one that first came out with this proposed plan where there's 3 teams in each division, 10 teams in 3 divisions. Sorry about that.
No.
And it's regionalized. So there's West and there's the Central, so all the teams that's in the Midwest, and then of course the Eastern Coast teams. But it's a really interesting plan. It puts a lot of the local teams together and facing each other. So I think it's interesting. But do you think it's suitable? I mean, they have the Braves in the Central, which is kind of tough. Having them to travel, for at least 80 games for this year. I mean, it's gonna be kind of tough.
If they do those divisions like that, the different regions, I'm assuming the Central would be the group of teams that played in Texas. The East would play in Florida. The West would play in Arizona. So there would be less travel in that regard.
Gotcha.
And I don't know exactly how the scheduling would work. I saw the report said there would be about 100 games, but in that sort of setting, would they just play against people in their division? Would they play at one time against other teams in other divisions? That's the tricky part, because if you start adding that, there's more variables about traveling out of state. So probably the easiest way to do it would be to just have only divisional games for this 100-game season. And then you do playoffs. And at the time you do playoffs, hopefully it's easier to travel, or they do all of the playoff games in one of the specific states, whether it be Phoenix, Arizona, or maybe Florida, Texas. I don't know. But then you do it out of there, because you won't really have home field advantage in this case, because there are no fans. Most teams aren't playing out of their home stadiums anyway, if any of them are. So there are ways to do it, but it's tricky.
Yeah, because I heard somewhere that they might be that they might be doing neutral ground games.
Right.
And now I'm hearing that there was one article I read back that they might even extend the season to November, heck, even December.
That's silly.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that would work.
I think if you're in Arizona or Texas or Florida, it works because it's warm. If you try to play baseball in December here in New York, you'd freeze your ass off.
Right. I mean, you could do it. But the one problem, if you drag the season on into November, December, is then you're cutting into the off season for next year. And a lot of players use the entire off season to recover their bodies. Look at what the Red Sox did this past season in 2019. They had their pitchers, it kind of backfired, but after they had all their pitchers pitch an extra month in October to get them to win the World Series, they started their off-season training late. They didn't really have a full spring training workout in spring training. They started that late because they wanted to give their pitchers more time to recover in an off season where most teams have a full extra month. The team that wins the World Series doesn't. So if you bring a season into December, maybe even January, depending on how everything works out scheduling, then that's a couple, at least 2 fewer months of off season that the players would have, and that's probably not going to get through the Players Association.
And it would also mess up the calendar a little bit because, let's say you have the season that ends in like a late November, early December. I don't think it's realistic, but let's say it does. Spring training would then be 2 months away. Like
right.
That's not reliable for a lot of these people that really need time to recover.
Right.
For a long
is that going to be enough time to recover? That's the big question.
Right. No, it probably wouldn't be, especially for pitchers.
So what do you think do you think the Arizona plan is the best way to go?
If you return, I feel like you'd have to do some sort of version of the Arizona plan, even if it's the 3 different state plan. You'd have to have some version of that to do it if you did it. I can't make any predictions or recommendations right now. But it does seem like that's the safest version of returning to baseball in 2020.
You recently wrote an article. I apologize, Bill, for cutting you off.
No, go right ahead.
Overall, it's just a really tough time because there's a lot of things to it. But another thing that you brought up was, and this one terrifies me, is this idea that we won't be able to see Mr. Albert Pujols get to number 700,
right.
Career home runs, and you have the players like Miguel Cabrera, both Hall of Famers, 100%, might not reach their milestone. Miguel Cabrera has 2, the 3,000 hits, and the 500 home runs. If the season gets canceled or pushed back a little bit more, it's just amazing how. Just an impact of having a lost season or a very abbreviated season can really change the trajectory of those numbers.
Oh yeah, I mean the one thing that is interesting to look at is I think Pujols is how this impacts his legacy at getting to the round numbers that we love, 700 home runs. I mean. He was on pace to get to exactly 700 home runs with a full season in 2020 and a full season in 2021. He has 2 years left on his contract. He's been averaging about 22 home runs a year, and he's 44 away from 700. It would have been an outside shot, but he's been fairly consistent in the last 3 years or so about hitting that sort of mark and averaging that over a full season of whatever his full season is, 130, 140 games. So that would have been that's probably not going to happen anymore because he's not going to sign for another year after this. The other thing what's up?
Well, then neither should he.
No, not at all.
Great career. So.
Right. Now, but the other thing is if you had looked at the pace that he's on, right, if they had a full season this year, he probably would have finished, somewhere around 3,454 hits is what, if you add what his pace is to the next 2 years, which would have put him at 7th all time. He would have finished with 700 home runs, 4th all time, would have been the 4th member of the 700 home run club. If you add the RBIs he is averaging to what he already has, he would have finished with 2,247. Which would have put him in 2nd place all time. It would have been one of 3 players to reach 2,000 RBIs. The other two being Babe Ruth, who's second right now, would be third if Albert had gotten that far, and Hank Aaron first. And then he would have been 2nd all time in total bases had he continued on the 210 total base pace for the next 2 seasons. He would have been 2nd all time with 6,283 total bases. So now, if there's no baseball in 2020 and a full 2021 season, assuming he keeps this pace, he'll be at 3,328 hits, which is 10th all time, 678 home runs, which would be 5th. He would still trail Alex Rodriguez at 696, but he would pass Willie Mays at 660. He would be third with RBIs with 2,161. So he would still reach that 2,000 RBI plateau, but he would not be second all time. And he would be third in total bases with 6,073. So the lost year of Albert robs us of a few more celebrations. It doesn't really question his, put his greatness into question. Whether he's second or third in RBIs and total bases doesn't make too much of a difference. Whether he gets to 700 home runs or not isn't that big of a deal for his overall legacy, but it's still something, and it still robs us of a chance to celebrate the player who was once the best in the game for, a good, 5 to 10 year period.
And he's just he's a cool guy to watch.
Right.
He is.
Yeah.
Just fun. A fun player to watch, a fun person to watch play in person. Overall, great guy. Definitely one of my top 10 favorite players to watch.
Oh, mine too. I heard he's a really good guy too. So, and also you were talking about Miguel Cabrera as well.
Yeah. Now he's interesting because this spring he actually looked healthy. It didn't look like he was going to collapse every time he walked or stepped in the batter's box. And he had a pretty good spring. Heading into this year, he was 185 hits shy of 3,000 and 23 home runs away from 500. A healthy Miguel Cabrera can have 185 hits in a season. The question is what an abbreviated season or a canceled 2020 season would do to that. Because right now, even if he didn't get to 3,000 in 2020 with a full 2020 season, he'd get there sometime in early 2021, considering he stayed healthy, or assuming he stayed healthy. But if you don't have a 2020 season, he comes back, he's 38 returning to the lineup, and he's been, crumbling for the last 2 or 3 years. He'll be another year older, one major injury away from not being able to take the field again. He's signed for a decent amount of time. I believe he's signed through 2023 or 2024 with an option. But if he is,
if he keeps getting hurt
and he's older, it's a little less certain that he can get to 3,000 hits and 500 home runs, which were at one point, which at one point seemed like they were inevitable for him to get there.
Well, the thing is, because of what's going to happen to the season, that puts these milestones in jeopardy.
Right. I mean, it's not the most important thing to worry about, but it sure is something that baseball fans kind of rally behind when a veteran player who is not the same that he once was, starts to approach these achievements. And we all like to tune in and see, did he get his 3,000th hit? What 500th home run? How many is he away? 600, 700, whatever. It's something that we, tend to all rally around. So I think that is something that's essential to fans, and it's something that we could be robbed of if there is no 2020 season for the likes of some of these players.
Okay, but ages might be a factor. But think about this, though. Alex Rodriguez, granted suspension, missed an entire season. And he was way up there, way in his 30s and 40s.
Right.
And, even though it was just for one season, he had an incredible bounce back year in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that realistic for someone like Miguel Cabrera if they don't, if there's no 2020 season, that in 2021 he can be back in so much form because there's so much rest?
Yes, there definitely is a possibility, and I'd say even maybe a slight probability that Miguel Cabrera at least reaches 3,000 hits over, the 2-3 years remaining on his contract when he comes back. The problem is we've seen the way injuries have impacted his career, at least the last 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah,
A-Rod didn't have the same sort of injury that kept him out for a full year. He had the hip problem a year or two before the suspension that caused him to miss a decent amount of time, but he came back healthy. Cabrera hasn't been healthy the last 2 or 3 years, and really what's hurt him when he has been on the field has been his power numbers have dropped. When he's played a full season, he can still hit 290, 280, 300 even, but he's not He doesn't have the power that he once did. So I think that another injury could be the end of him, especially as he gets older. So it's a little bit tougher to say that he'll have a resurgent 2021 season, even though it's happened before, and somebody as talented as Miguel Cabrera, you don't ever really want to doubt.
Yeah, because this could, again, like, what's going to happen with all this? Because Cabrera keeps getting injured. Pujols, you said he does have something to worry about, but not as bad as Cabrera, if that makes sense.
Well, the thing is, he's already got to 600. He's home runs. He's already got to 3,000 hits. The only milestone left that's, one of the main round numbers is 700 home runs. And he had an outside shot of getting there anyway, had he kept up that 22 home run pace over the next 2 years. Now that we're already delayed a month plus into the 2020 season, and probably not going to start until the end of June at the absolute earliest.
Yeah, because I was reading
700 home runs. 700 home runs is over for him, because that's already half a season of at bats and chances to get the 22 home runs a year pace. That's already done. He's not going to get to 700 home runs now.
Because what I'm hearing with the of when the season's going to come back, I'm hearing earlier. She said late June, latest. They're saying July 2nd.
Yeah, but the latest, I think that's tough to say. I think latest realistically is probably the beginning of the 2021 season. There is a chance that this year, because I think that there's a lot of optimistic models that say you can do it, you can do an abbreviated season. I would love there to be one, but when you start bringing players back, there are a lot of unforeseen potential consequences that could happen. A player gets sick. You have to quarantine him for 14 days. Now you have to bring up a minor leaguer or a guy who's not on the active roster. What are you going to do with them? There's not going to, it's probably really unlikely that there's going to be a minor league season. So now you're going to have to carry extra guys at the spring training complex who are now going to say DJ LeMahieu gets the coronavirus, knock on wood, God forbid, whatever, any of these players. Say it happens. Well, now you're going to have to bring up maybe Tyro Estrada from the minors or whoever, right? You bring him up, but he's not playing a minor league season. So you have to have him working out at the spring training complex, staying in shape for baseball at the chance that somebody gets hurt. Maybe you keep a larger active roster to, prevent this. Say they get sick, they get hurt, whatever, you got to bring somebody up. And then do you have to quarantine the whole team? Because LeMahieu's interacting with all of these players on a daily basis. So
what happened with that's what happened in the NBA with the Jazz player. His name, I'm sorry, his name's
Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, Gobert.
Yeah.
Because they had to quarantine the whole Jazz team and anyone who played them within the past 10 days. I think all the Knicks had to quarantine. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right. So it's something that it's hard to know that a season can go uninterrupted. It's one thing to start a season. It's another thing to finish it. If you don't have a vaccine and very strict quarantining procedures in place.
Because I think what also could be a factor is we've been seeing there are a couple states that are going to be lifting the stay-at-home orders this coming week.
Right, and some of them already have.
Because God forbid they'll hopefully if that's the case, and this is going to sound very pissy of me to say, I hope the MLB doesn't allow fans in that case, because God forbid, we don't know everybody's case.
No, there will not be fans in
not at all.
A ballpark in 2020. That's pretty much out of the question. Some of the leagues like NFL specifically are kind of holding out hope and not letting on that there's any possibility that they won't have a 2020 season or that they won't have fans in attendance. But realistically, there will not be any fans, period.
I think that the NFL's a little more there's a better chance that there's going to be fans, a slightly better chance.
There's a slight chance
Absolutely.
there's a slight chance in the NFL.
Because the NFL is later in the year, so
I hope you're right. How's that? I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it works out. It's just the different states, the vast geographic region, the interstate travel, all of these different factors make it really difficult for sports to happen, especially because in cities, as I believe Reggie was saying before, in cities, they're densely populated, and that's where professional sports teams are located. That's why Major League Baseball is trying to do the sort of abbreviated plan in Arizona, in Florida, in Texas, and keep them all together. But the NFL specifically, if they want to have fans in their stadiums, there's no set region where there are 20 different stadiums or 15 different stadiums where you can host football games all like that with fans. Absolutely. So there's just so many problems with fans that's definitely, I can almost say with 100% certainty that there will not be fans in attendance at these specific sporting events for the rest of the year.
Now, are you aware of the possible rift between the players' union and the league about possibly playing? Because I know the players are really, especially the players' union, they're really, they're not certain that it's safe enough to play because of there's that second wave that's expecting to come. So, I'm not sure if there's like a huge rift because I know money's involved too. That's another thing, because I know players are taking salary cuts and they don't like that. So can you, if you're close enough to it, can you sort of explain that? Because it's really an interesting thing as well. Another thing to think about, because the players, they want to play, but they also want to be safe. And if they're going to lose time, they also want to make sure that they have their safety money.
Right. Well, for basically the players specifically, there hasn't been too much of a rift between the players union and the owners specifically regarding the coronavirus. I mean, service time manipulation, the CBA, all of these other problems have created an ongoing rift that's kind of just subsided as they try to work through the coronavirus pandemic right now. The players really do want to play. There's no doubt about that. How much and they're willing to give up in order to play is up for debate, and it's something that varies from player to player. And some of this has nothing to do with money. Clayton Kershaw has said that he doesn't want to be away from his family for an extended period of time to play an abbreviated season in Arizona. And really, I don't blame him for that. Nolan Arenado said he'll play whenever. Joe Madden has said that he'd play on the moon. Now, there are problems with that because every player's at a different standpoint financially, at a different stage in their careers, have X number of years left on their contracts. Those vary from player to player. I think right now, the goal for the players union and Major League Baseball is as collective as it's been for any other dispute that they've had in the past. They want to get on the field and they want people to be safe. It's a unified goal, and I think that that's created fewer rifts in the past, and I think the uncertainty of what the contingency plans would be, because we're not really close yet to figuring anything out, has allowed there to be better relations and less animosity towards one another. I think if there are solutions that come in and different proposals, that could create more of a rift. I know the MLB Players Union just recently rejected the owner's plan of how they want to have the MLB draft this year. 10 rounds, fewer signing bonuses, less value for specific slots. And the players don't want that, specifically the players union, because they either want these draft picks to get paid what they probably should, especially because playing baseball is a full-time job, regardless of what minor leaguers make anyway. So you have that part of it. And plus they don't like the precedent of being able to shrink the signing bonuses, which are what a lot of these high draft picks, live off of for the first year or two in the minors. So with all that being said, I guess the long-winded way of saying that, no, there isn't too much of a rift right now, specifically regarding this and coming back. I think as you get closer to coming back and more of these, proposed policies become more concrete and seem more real, there could be more of a rift. But right now, specifically with returning, there hasn't been too much animosity and anger.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm sorry I keep harping on this, but I'm gonna try to combine everything right now. What we've been talking about with baseball and the Arizona plan. Talking about like with other sports, things that have been coming out over the past week. One is college football.
Right.
They're planning on here are some of the plans I've been hearing. One, just axing the 2020 season. Plan 2 was just having the season but with no fans, like what everybody else is doing. And I'll be honest, that is probably like going to be the most depressing thing, because college football is like built on the bands, the fans.
If I don't get to see Lee Corsel's mascot pick for who he's picking to win, I'm not interested. That's the highlight of my Saturday when I'm working, is Lee Corso putting the mascot head. That's the highlight of my day.
Yeah, you got those. And also I'm hearing they might just wait until, get this, next spring to play the 2021 college football season. And also, with the NBA, I don't know, they're thinking about moving to finish the season either in Disney World or in Vegas.
Right.
I'm sorry if that was a long.
No. So
question, but
the answers, I guess, for these are somewhat similar, right? They don't know anything yet. They can make all these proposals. They can try to change and come up with these answers. But as things change, they're going to have to update these proposals and decide. Pat Forty, one of our college football writers, wrote a whole column saying we don't have to rush to make a decision about college football in April, which is when it was published. Now it's May. But still, we don't have to rush to make a decision in May either. He quoted somebody saying that it's why would we try to make a decision 4 weeks out when we don't know how the virus is going to progress in 4 weeks from now?
But you also got to look from the college football perspective. You got to look at how are the universities, because like for instance in New York, as of yesterday, all schools and colleges, they're closed through the rest of the year now. And
that was expected.
Bill, here's the thing, all right? College football, the thing that we love about it is how vast it is, how many schools play, how many programs there are, how many different geographies are represented. That specifically is what makes this such a difficult problem to solve here, because where are the two most impacted regions by the coronavirus right now? The Northeast, bigger cities in that area, New York City, a lot of places on the northeastern part of the country, and the Northwest, right? There are some major college football programs there, and their problems are a lot different in figuring this out than in, Alabama, where there are fewer cases, where the population isn't as dense. So in Alabama and in the SEC, a lot of they could be much more willing, and it could be much safer for them to come back and play games in the fall, where my alma mater, Penn State, probably won't have that luxury the same way.
And
Washington,
the Big Ten,
Oregon.
The Big Ten is actually in an interesting case, because not only in the Northeast, but then they're also in those Midwestern states.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So there are different things, there are different solutions to that too, which are maybe you have two different sections of a season where, the SEC, maybe the ACC, whatever, they play certain games, the Big 12, in the fall, maybe. And then you have, as the curve flattens in the Northeast or the Northwest, the Pac-12 conferences, the Big 10, whatever, right? They come back and play, as you were saying, in, January, February, March next year in 2021. But the problem with that is the second wave you were talking about, that is expected to happen in January, right when the season is about to start, or when the fall season is going to end, when the college football playoff is going on. And then if you do separate it into two different halves of seasons, some of them play in the fall, some of them play in the winter, spring, right? Now you're going back to having, say, the AP poll decide who is the national championship. So there are so many different things working against college football as a unified national sport, that makes it really difficult to have it happen, and which makes it a lot more difficult to plan, 4 or 5 months out. Now, the other thing is, these are amateur athletes. They are not getting paid right now to play college sports. This is not a profession for them. It has the opportunity to develop into one, but if you're looking at their motivations to play, it is completely amateur right now, especially because a lot of big draft picks, potential, first, second round, third round picks in next year's draft are already known and scouted by a lot of the NFL teams.
Because
go on. The season into January, is Trevor Lawrence going to want to play in January and risk, the time, and play college football, risk injury in January, February when the NFL drafts in April, and risk the workout time that he's normally doing there to specifically get ready for the NFL draft? So if these, players were already looking for an incentive to get out of bowl games, well, now we're going to have a regular season in January and February. That's even more of a reason for these guys to completely forego the college football season and just play, get ready for the NFL draft. And the third thing that's really complicated with this is the two biggest money-making sports for college athletics are football and college basketball.
Yeah.
Both of them are multi-million-dollar industries every year.
And, college basketball probably lost a crap ton of money.
Right. They've already missed this year's March Madness tournament. Do you want college football and college basketball competing against one another for TV airtime, for fans, if they even allow fans to come in at all? They could have limited fans. I mean, now you're competing for both of these things in a finite pool where there still could be risk of people getting sick then too. So all this is to say that, we don't know anything yet, but we know some of the risks, and it just seems unlikely. College football's in a weird spot. If the universities don't come back and have on-campus classes, can you really have these athletes competing? Maybe.
What though? This brings up will players like Trevor Lawrence and the other seniors, will they be eligible for another year if there's no?
Probably. If there's no season, they can just grant an extra year of eligibility to these guys. It's not like it's high schoolers who are graduating from high school and going to college, and it's not like little leaguers who are now 13 and they can't play in the Little League World Series that's just been canceled. In college, you can just grant an extra year of eligibility. You can give them all, blanket red shirts. But the problem is Trevor Lawrence and any of the other, big-time draft prospects are just going to go to the draft if they have, if their stock is high enough anyway, because why play another year in college if you can just go and make a lot of money?
I know, right? You might as well.
So those aren't the guys that you're worried about granting another year of eligibility to. It's the guys who are juniors and sophomores maybe who have a draft case, but maybe aren't as high as they would be in the following year's draft if they played another year in college and added to their resume and, boosted their draft stock that way. Those are the guys that you grant an extra year of eligibility to, which is great. I mean, I think that's the least that the NCAA can do to these guys if they're missing a year of sports. So we'll see.
They might just say, you know what, screw being in college for another year. I'm just going to the NFL.
Right. Well, that's the
it.
problem. And that's why they will grant them an extra year of eligibility so that they can try at the very least to keep at least some of their more talented upperclassmen in the college ranks for another year.
Yeah. So, I touched on NBA, but I feel like NBA is pretty much in the same position as baseball because
the NBA is different though, and the reason it's different is because games are inside. There's a lot of the space is a lot closer. It's more condensed. If you're driving to the hoop and you are, really sweaty and you're contacting at least one or two people each time you drive, to the basket. So that's a way that you could spread it. You quarantine them, that's fine. But I think basketball is a lot harder to limit the impact of potential virus being spread during a specific competition than, say, baseball, where there are fewer people that are within 6 feet of each other. There's less person-to-person contact than there is in basketball or football. Hockey's weird to begin with, being inside and on the ice. So there's a lot of different things that go into it. That's why each sports, has its own sort of problems to deal with and things to figure out if they want to return.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I said this last week to all the guys here. I really don't think it's the right time to bring those sports back. I understand people want to see a championship here. Like, I want to see someone get crowned a champion. I like to see Giannis get his first championship, but it's just not realistic right now. With all those possibilities of what could happen. When you're trying to contain a virus that's very contagious.
Right, exactly.
And Ross Mason, if you listen to this, we're sorry that we might have to axe your hockey.
Yeah.
A friend of ours who's a big hockey buff.
Big hockey buff. Like today was supposed to be the running of the Kentucky Derby.
Right.
It's first Saturday of the month.
And
Kentucky Derby is supposed to be going on. Not running it till September, so that's going to be a weird thing if that happens, having the Kentucky Derby in the middle of September. It's just a weird time. I think you're supposed to have the Masters coming up soon with the PGA. It's just a weird time. Like we discussed last week, it really can't run any sport at the moment.
Because then you got to see how all the cities are doing, how are all the cases. And here's the real heartbreaking question, Matt. I know you don't want to answer this, but what is the possibility that 2020 we're just not going to have any sports?
There is a possibility. I cannot put a number on it. The easiest number to say would be 50-50. But even that's high for people who try to be optimistic. I don't know. You might have individual sports. Tennis might be able to play. Golf might be able to play. But I just don't know. And nobody knows. That's the one thing. Nobody knows for sure. Not right now.
People are just, because not just with sports, but with just this whole thing in general.
Right.
Is the uncertainty that's freaking everybody out.
Right, exactly. So we don't know. We can hope, we listen, we, try to figure things out as we go, but nobody knows yet. So that's all we can tell you. That's all we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's just hope that, obviously the president has talked with all the commissioners already. Cuomo just put all the New York teams, the owners, onto his board to reopen the state. So let's just hope that our government leaders are also getting involved and making sure that
because I know Fauci approved the Arizona plan, so.
We'll see what happens. That's the best we can do. We'll see what happens.
And, getting back to baseball for a second, okay, this has nothing to do with the pandemic, which I hope is okay, because I think we need something to,
Right, yeah.
I got one thing to touch on baseball, too.
Now, yeah, that was what I was going to lead you right into that. Pat?
I can go first? All right.
No,
I know
go right ahead.
I know we talked about Pujols and Cabrera milestones, but I wanted to bring up Max Scherzer.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's chasing 3,000 strikeouts.
Right.
And you also touch on that also the Nationals, they might not have a banner ceremony this year.
Right.
Just winning the World Series. It's just those two things I was looking forward to since I am a big Nats buff.
Okay. So yeah, the Max Scherzer, you'd think he's going to get there, but he's going to be another year older, and pitchers specifically age weird. Their arms get tired. They push through one injury and it gets worse. They come back and their stuff just isn't as sharp. It's hard to imagine Max Scherzer not having the same stuff that he had this year and last year and the year before, and really for the last decade. But the problem is, one day it's gone. Pitchers seem to decline quickly, even if they don't have an injury. And if there's no season, he's another year older. That's a year without having strikeouts. And I believe he's a free agent after next season.
After next season, he's a free agent.
Yes, right. So at a time when teams are investing less and less into aging starting pitchers, what's his contract situation going to be like? I believe somebody will sign him with the chance to get to 3,000 strikeouts in their uniform, with a chance to mentor the young pitchers, with a chance to, lead them to a playoff and World Series before he's completely done. I think Scherzer will get to 3,000, but you don't know. You don't know when he's going to blow out his shoulder, when his back gives out, whatever, his elbow, anything. And pitchers even are less certain than players that they'll be back at the level that they were before.
To me, it would cap.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it would cap off his career. 2 no-hitters. He's part of the 20 strikeout club, and he has a World Series. So it would add to his already Hall of Fame career resume.
Right. It doesn't take away, but I mean, it would definitely lock him in. So there's that.
Go ahead, Reginald.
And then you talk about the aging of pitchers. You think about younger pitchers like Jacob deGrom, who's like right in the middle, getting to his prime, if not in his prime already, and he's already won back-to-back Cy Youngs. So, what does that do for someone like him? I don't think he's going to skip a beat because, this guy is, he's had 2 brilliant seasons. And obviously a missed season is going to maybe hold up a little bit of his progress, but, he doesn't. I don't know how much he needs to go because this guy's amazing. He has loads of potential. He's just right in that sweet spot. Where he's like prime, he's young, and he's hip, and he can chase pretty much everything. So
DeGrom, right, he would have been a free agent this past off season had he not signed an extension with the Mets, and that deal ends up looking great for the Mets. After you see what the payday that Garrett Cole and Strasburg got. So that's just to say that DeGrom is right in that sweet spot where he is on a favorable contract with the Mets. He's really, really good. He's won back-to-back Cy Youngs. This year, with no abbreviated season, he would have been he would be chasing 3 Cy Young in a row. Believe the first pitcher to do that if he did it since Greg Maddux. So, right, but the thing is, if there is no season, he can still get there in 2021, and it would technically be 3 straight Cy Young awards. But is there an asterisk there without a 2021 season? With Max Scherzer probably the guy who has the best shot in the National League, other than DeGrom, to win a Cy Young award. Now that he's a year older, what does that do to the competition for winning 3 straight but in 4 years? The other thing is, if there is half a season in 2020, He only has to be the best pitcher in baseball for half a year. Do you look at his 3 straight Cy Young awards in the same light as you look at when Greg Maddux did it?
Where he did it for 3 straight years, actual 3 straight full seasons.
Full seasons, yes. So that's different. I mean, it's still an accomplishment. And the other thing is, if there is baseball this year and there's a 100-game season, right, or an 80-game season or whatever, how do we view the World Series champ? Do we look at that accomplishment the same way as we would look at, say, what the Nationals did last year? There is historic precedent to playing a 100-game season and winning the World Series. The 1981 Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series that year. They played a total of 100 games about there, with a midseason strike that, cut out a decent chunk of the season. To determine who went to the playoffs, they ended up actually doing a first half champion and a second half champion as the teams that would qualify to go to the playoffs. Interestingly, that year, the St. Louis Cardinals had the best overall record. If you counted the whole 1981 season, they had the best. They would have been in first place in the National League West, but they came in second for both half seasons, so they didn't go to the playoffs. So anyway, the way that I say this as precedent is, we don't look at the Dodgers championship that year in 1981 as a fluke or as an asterisk next to their title. They were just the 1981 world champions. The last time the Dodgers won the World Series is 81. We don't consider it a less of an achievement because it happened in 100 games. And I guess the way you'd say that is the situation is a team as it is for a team in 162 games. They're still playing the same season. So it's still an accomplishment to win the World Series. It's just maybe a little different in how you get there.
Okay, this next thing has nothing to do with milestones or the virus or anything, but I know Patch has a take on this.
Okay.
Manny Ramirez is making a comeback.
Good old Manny. I love Manny. Was he 48 now? Trying to make
48.
a comeback. 48 and Taiwanese
God
League.
bless him.
God bless, man. Hope it works out for him, because Manny's being Manny, as the old saying goes.
Is that your take? That's it?
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's more of a take. It's just like, I can't believe someone at 48 is going to try and play baseball. He's not him as it was when he was playing with the Red Sox. He's just a lot older.
I love it. I love it.
Don't get me wrong. I love it.
It reminds me of Jose Canseco trying to make a comeback in independent baseball a couple years ago, or Ricky Henderson play until he was 50 in the minor leagues. So, I mean, this happens. Guys don't want to give up playing, and they can continue to play in these lesser leagues, so go for it. I'm all for it. It's fun. It's stupid. Why not? We need a story like this right now, even if it's Manny Ramirez, who we don't really take seriously anyway.
Manny being Manny.
Exactly. And not to mention, the baseball over in Taiwan is miles different than baseball in America.
Right.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
So it's probably something that he can catch on, probably easier to navigate maybe, than the world.
I mean, Julio Franco's still playing over in Korea.
Oh, my God.
He's in his 60s. I mean, he coaches there. He plays a little bit. I mean, it is, if you can do it, go for it. Why not?
Do it. Why not?
Reach for the stars.
So.
Yep. Okay, so Matt, thank you for joining us. We do have some other stuff we'd like to talk about. Think you can hang around, or do you got to go?
I got to go back to work, but you guys enjoy. It was great being here.
Matt, thanks for coming. We got to have you back on sometime.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, bye.
I appreciate it, Matt.
We appreciate it, man.
Thanks for coming.
Is he gone?
I don't know. I think the thing froze.
There he go. It might have froze on him. We can do a quick edit on it.
Yeah.
Of course.
So yeah, Matt Martell will put his he writes for Sports Illustrated. Check his writers out. We'll
We'll put the link in the bio on the podcast.
Yeah. Great guy. Great guy.
Oh, I loved it. That was enjoyable. I really enjoyed that.
That was really fun.
Pretty knowledgeable guy, and you know,
great.
obviously, you know, when you work for Sports Illustrated, you gotta be very intelligent. So, you know,
I've known him since high school actually, and he knew a bunch of stuff.
Right.
All right, guys.
I kind of like. I wanted to talk more, but I kind of just sit back and just let him go because it was just inspiring.
Oh, I was the same way.
I was like, I want to say something, but it's like
his tangents are amazing. How about that? His tangents are amazing.
Yeah, it's like he's very articulate too. Okay, guys, so we got a few other things we'd like to talk about. Do we want to just breeze through them, or
boom, let's go. Why not?
Or do we want to be more, or do we want to build on it more?
We can do a little bit of both. We can build on it in a quick take.
Of course.
Because, you know, no offense to Matt, that ate up more time than I thought it was going to be. In a good way. In a good way. I'm on no schedule today.
Well, I'm making lunch after. I'm making lunch after this. I'm making lunch after this and going on Xbox.
Okay, so let's talk about the XFL. Patchy, you said you wanted to talk about that last time.
I wanted to talk about it because it's sad.
It is.
It was sad because, you know, you look at the league, it was actually enjoyable football for the 5 weeks that it ran.
I never watched it. I always told myself I was going to watch it, but I never got around to it.
It was enjoyable football. They had great concepts. You know, after a touchdown, you had the 1, 2, or 3 point play instead of the extra point.
Yeah.
That was great.
I did kind of enjoy that. That was actually pretty cool.
To me, go ahead.
And it puts more excitement to the game because, you know, in the NFL, we're used to touchdown, then point after. You know, now this is like not just 1 point after. This is multiple points after. Like, you can actually go for it. And look, if you make it, you make it. I think it was pretty dope what they were trying to do.
Yeah, because Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, because like we talked about, NFL, they have the extra point or they have the 2 point conversion. You elaborate more, like, okay, in the NFL, if you catch the 2 point on the interception, you could run it for the 2 points. And I think that was the same rule in the XFL. If you got if you intercepted the end zone or you intercepted anywhere, you could have ran it back for that amount of points. To me, I think that'd be interesting to have it in the NFL. You put that in the NFL, I think NFL games get more exciting.
And now the XFL is gone.
XFL is gone for now. It's bankrupt. It's up for sale. Apparently, World Wrestling Entertainment owned a quarter of the league, from what I've been reading.
Owned a quarter, and that's kind of weird because, you know, my boy Vince McMahon, you know, he was part of that, right?
Yeah, Vince McMahon owns WWE. He put $500 million into the league to make it run for 2 to 3 seasons, and now it's just gone. The first rendition, it started off great, and then they got all WWE crazy storylined with it. But this time around, he actually hit it almost at the point, but the coronavirus unfortunately came in and killed it. Took it out. Took it out in the ACL.
Because I never really watched an XFL game, but I keep telling myself I'm going to watch it, but I never did.
It was actually pretty exciting. You know, obviously the New York team, we don't want to talk about the New York team. Like, you know, that was pretty tough to watch, you know. But
DC Defenders.
I love DC. DC's team was actually pretty dope.
I was loving DC. But then you look at the Battlehawks, great attendance. They're getting ready to open up the second tier of the stadium because they kept more fans, and then killed. Just stopped a ball, came right in, and just took everything out.
Yeah.
So do you think there could be any comeback, or do you think it's I have to do this. I know I did this back in Dutchess, or it has passed on. It is no more. It has ceased to be. It has gone, and it has expired and gone to meet its maker. It's a thrift. It's a thrift of life. It rest in peace. If there were more fans, it would be pushing up the daisies. It is run down the curtain and join the choir invisible. This is an ex-football league.
It's a tough question because it is up for sale. You can, I don't know how much it's going for, but I think in the last 2 weeks it was announced that it's for sale. Hey, you can go buy this league. Unlike the AAF, I think that was the last year's fun spring league to go around. To me, I didn't really enjoy watching it. I would watch it for like 5 minutes and like, oh, this is just not good football.
The AAF, the Arena Football League.
No, it wasn't the Arena Football League. It was the league that came out last year that ran for like 9 weeks and then just went bankrupt. I forget. I think it was the AAF. The Arena Football League is now gone too, but that's a side note. But you look at the XFL, enjoyable football, and out of it, it had I think 4 players got signed to NFL teams. You had PJ Walker from the Renegades. I mean, not the Renegades, the Roughnecks. You had Jordan Tamouf, also another quarterback. He got signed. And then you had 2 defensive backs get signed too to the NFL. So the NFL was watching, and they did take some players out of the XFL.
And I guess, that's sort of I mean, obviously the point is to bring another league into light and, showcase more football than what we see in the fall. But obviously is also to give players a chance to showcase to the NFL. I can make too. I'm a professional. You can sign me, and I can be a playmaker for your team. And I think they accomplished that pretty good. So I'm happy that at least some of the XFL players are at least getting chances to go and show their case in the NFL.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see. Hopefully somebody maybe buys it and we can have it again, but
hopefully. There's the thing. We can only hope. And I think a lot of people want it to come back. So we can only hope.
Yeah, because I wanted to give it a watch, but I kept forgetting it was on.
Saturdays and Sundays.
I had my friend down in D.C. who was like really getting into the Defenders, and he's really bummed that the XFL is not returning anytime soon. And I really do hope that they find whatever funds or whatever they can do to get back, because it's good. It's just good for sports.
It's good for sports, like, okay, after the Super Bowl, we have spring training, we have NBA and NHL in full swing, but for the people that still want their football kick, they had their football kick till NFL draft. They had their kick. They can watch something, like, to me, because once football ends, I go into, basketball and hockey mode till baseball starts up because I really don't watch spring training. So to me, that was another filler where, okay, I can watch a little bit of football if I want to. If the Knicks are playing, I can go watch the Knicks, even though that gets irritating sometimes. And then if I can catch my hockey team playing, I'll watch that. But it was fun watching the XFL when I was at work, working at the bowling alley, because I would always put it on.
Did it have like the type of reaction from the people in the bowling alley, like if you were to turn on like an NFL game, or no?
Oh, no, I put it on. And then once like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock rolled around, if the Knicks, if any of the New York teams were playing, they would, hey, can you put the game on? Of course.
You would be like, no, we have to watch the XFL.
No, we don't have to watch the XFL because I'll do a fun take on this one. On Fridays, you got the Rangers playing, the Knicks playing, the Nets playing, and there would always be a fight between the leagues between certain people on what to put on, because they would fight over, we want to watch the Nets play, we want to watch the Knicks. Hey, put the hockey game on.
People
I'm like, okay.
People watch the Nets. People really watch the Nets.
People really watch the Nets.
I guess so.
The Nets are a little more exciting than the Knicks sometimes, because the Knicks.
Watching paint dry is more exciting than the Knicks.
I mean, look, don't get me wrong. The Nets are a good team.
The Nets are a good team.
The Nets are a good team, and of course, you put KD and Kyrie into that mix. They're ways better and pretty much a contender for the finals. But I don't know. No, the Knicks whooped their ass twice, so I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know. Don't get me wrong. The Knicks are in the next few years. The Knicks are going to be good again.
I really hope so. I hope you're right.
With this whole
thing. Trust me. I want them to be good because this was a couple years ago. I was talking with good old parent Patchy. He goes,
send him our regards, by the way.
I will send love his way. He's going to probably listen to this later. Because he was asking me about where can I listen. I told him. Side note, but back to get on track. We were talking about the Knicks a few years ago, and he's like, I just want to watch them win a championship in my life. The first two don't really count because I really wasn't invested in them. But he wants to see them win a championship in his lifetime. Even though he's seen two of them, he wants to be involved with this one.
He where it actually meant something to him. Like he was
actually meant something.
Following the Knicks, and he's actually putting time and effort into being a big Knicks fan. He wants to see them in that case. That's fair.
Because he'll rag me for saying, "Oh, you're a Knicks fan. You don't really watch." I'm like, "You're right. I really don't watch, but if I get the time, I'll watch." But like we speak about them winning a championship, it's like me with my team in baseball. All those years of heartbreak in the playoffs, of them, choking up a little bit, finally coming through and pushing through to win it all.
Was there a tear in your eyes when the Nats won the World Series?
I'll tell this. Watching the World Series, I think I talked about it last week a little bit, was hard because I had superstitious in me. I couldn't watch them play. I would keep my phone updates. I get updates. I would watch a little bit. They would go up. All of a sudden, runs would start coming in on the Nationals. I had to turn the game off. Game 7 rolls around. Bowling League night. Okay, they're down. I'm like, I'll go home. Just going to go to bed. If I wake up in the morning, they win, I'm going to be excited. Couldn't sleep that night. So my phone keeps going off. I look. Okay, Nats score a run. Okay, they're not going to get shut out. All of a sudden, I see Howie Kendrick's home run. They're up by what? I'm like, oh. So I put the broadcast on. I'm watching later through the 8th. Bottom 9th comes up. I watched the bottom of the 9th. And that was like 3 I watched that night. And then when they won, it was a subtle hands up in the air. And then I got like 5 texts from all my friends. I think you were one of them, Bill.
I think I was, actually.
You were one of I think it was you, Ross, my buddy Mark, my friend Mikey, and then someone else texted me that night congratulating me.
Yeah, I think I did text you that night.
But I will say, that was a fun time to be a fan. And now I have a bunch of Nat stuff. Championship barrel.
It's always is. It always is.
And the Astros, who cheated, lost, and that's a good thing.
It was justice served.
And they beat our Yankees, which makes it even more painful.
Yeah. That was another fun night. Watch it.
Can I just tell a really quick story?
Go ahead.
Game 5, the game the Yankees actually won. I was at my buddy's wedding that night. And, because they weren't supposed to play that game because I think the night of the wedding they were actually supposed to have off, but because of the weather, they pushed everything back because one game got rained out.
Because of the weather. I think it's because of the rain.
There was a rain out. There was rain out that week, yeah.
And that night was the day of my buddy's wedding. And I'm like thinking, and my buddy who was getting married is a Met fan. And I'm like thinking, Steve, you better damn well appreciate this. You better. I'm missing a Yankee playoff game for this. Yeah, I was checking my phone. And Steve, if you're listening to this, no malice, buddy. I had a blast at that wedding, and you and your wife are two of my absolute favorite people. So yeah, Steve, if you're listening, don't hunt me down. I'm like checking my phone, but like after a while, I'm thinking, you know what? It's my buddy's wedding. I can watch the highlights later.
I was watching Game 7 of the ALCS at the bowling alley, and I'm going to admit this. I didn't want a Yankees-Nats World Series because I knew the Yankees were going to win if they beat Houston.
Reg, and you would all be killing each other for the next week.
No, we wouldn't have, but I believe that the Yankees beat the Astros in Game 7.
6.
It only went 6.
6, my bad. Yeah, they won 6, my bad. Yeah. If the Yankees won that series, they were winning the whole thing. I just had that gut feeling in me. And then when Game 6 happened, I was very confident.
I wasn't confident.
If the Nats won, you would be bragging to. If the Nats beat, you'd be bragging to us for the end of time.
Oh, I can still brag to you at the time. My team won a World Series this past year. Yankees haven't won since 2009. My team won one.
Yeah. So, anyway, something I wanted to talk about, NFL power rankings.
Mm-hmm. Is there need to talk about that right now?
We could just breeze through them. You just want to talk about our teams, or you want to go through all 32?
If you want to go through all 32, I'm down.
You know what? Let's make a vote. Reg, you want to go through all 32 or just talk about our teams?
Well, I mean, we can talk about, just the more important ones. So obviously, I mean, what's the Jets power ranking? The
you just want to know the Jets power ranking?
What are they? Are they bottom of the pack?
29th.
Come on. Like, what are we talking about here? It's New York Jets, for crying out loud.
Jets
are number 22.
Oh, I was close.
Yeah. Who's number one? I'm curious as to who's number one right now.
You're gonna laugh at this. You ready?
Tampa Bay.
The Niners.
49ers. Okay.
49ers are good.
Good
Jimmy
team.
G.
I love Garoppolo.
And the Chiefs.
I love that defense too. Oh, okay.
And I'll just go.
They're pretty stagnant.
Top 10. Saints are at 3. Ravens are at 4. Colts are at 5. Titans are at 6. Tampa is at 7. We all saw that coming. They were going to be in at least the top 10.
TB12.
And Gronk. The Cowboys at 8. The Bills at 9. And the Steelers at 10.
The Buffalo Bills never get any love.
The Bills never get love.
I'm not a Bills fan, but I am a New Yorker. And the fact that my friends over in Western New York don't get any love, it stinks. The Bills should be much higher. They're a good team. And you know what? They're getting much better. Much better.
The Bills are going to win a Super Bowl this decade.
And your Packers are at number 16.
That's all right. The Packers need to figure something out.
And my Giants are at number 26.
Well, that's the Giants for you. The Giants are trash right now.
Yep.
I agree.
So is that quarterback.
But hey, number 26 is the number of one of my favorite players on there.
Yeah, the Giants, it's going to be interesting the next few years with the Giants. The Giants need also to figure something out.
If Joe Judge screws it up, you better put Abby in charge. She probably knows what she's doing.
Well, here's the deal. The biggest thing is Daniel Jones. Like, where is
Danny Dimes?
Is he going to develop into the quarterback that the Giants say he is, that Dave Gettleman, believes he can be? That's the thing. Right now, I don't think he's right there. I mean, he surprised me.
Here's the thing. He was first picked to be Eli's successor, and now, he had time to prep. Now, it's all on him.
Yeah, and you know what? And you know what I underestimated about him? The fact that he's so focused to do well, and that's all he's really focused on. And that's sort of been the trend lately. We're getting a lot of the big time athletes in New York City, in the region. They're all introverts. They don't really go out much. They're not looking for big spotlight. They're not looking for names on the front page or big headline news. So it's like, that gives me hope, for someone like R.J. Barrett. Gives me hope for Sam Darnold. Judge, you already saw him play in the playoffs. He doesn't do much, so I'm hopeful. And you know what? I hope for Daniel Jones too, because, he's a good guy. He's a really good guy. And,
he's a good guy. I like him.
But how accurate do you think these rankings are going to be?
Not very well.
Well, I mean, it's May, so
It's May. We're far out from the season.
Training camp, which may not happen, starts in July. So, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, so I don't really think I think everyone take these rankings with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean, it gives us a good idea, for sure, for certain. So, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, guys, it's time for us to get a little controversial here.
Of course.
God, please don't strike me down for what I'm about to do.
Yeah, and you can elaborate more because I haven't really read on this one.
Okay, so
Yeah, you got to elaborate on me too with this one.
Okay, so here has what's been going on. I now have to catch my two lovely friends here.
Listen, your story life is tough right now.
I know, and listen, I just thought the news just came last night, and I just thought about it this morning. So that's on me. If we were back in the old studio days, ding.
And now, boom.
And
regardless, Bill, take us on the train. Take us on the ride, on the highway.
Okay, so here's what's been going on. The past couple years, the U.S. women's soccer team has been yelling that they should get equal pay.
By far, they should.
The U.S. women's soccer team should be getting equal pay.
They should get more than equal pay, in my opinion.
The women's national soccer team sued the U.S. Olympic Soccer Organization, or sued the U.S. Soccer. They took them to court and everything. And yesterday, the judge ruled against the women's team. And so the judge ruled against them. And excuse us, I just have the article up right now.
It's all right.
It was filed last year, and the case was dismissed. And apparently the lawsuit was about gender pay discrimination.
Which is a big issue in America, unfortunately.
And listen,
it is, because
none of us here are lawyers. We don't have law degrees. We're not a political show, so
yeah,
we're gonna
we're also men, so it's kind of.
We're gonna try to keep the legal aspect, in explanatory wise. We're gonna try to keep it just so we can all understand it. We're not gonna be using all the fancy legal terms.
Correct.
But let me tell you this: I'm so qualified to do legal stuff. I never went to law school, but I've watched every episode of Law and Order. I am so qualified to talk about this.
No, you're not.
No,
that's a TV show.
I'm sure they have some consultants who know what the hell they're doing.
But regardless,
how funny if people could just use that as legal experience. Did you go to law school? No, but I watched every episode of Law and Order.
Yeah, but to get back on track,
thank you.
The U.S. Women's soccer team deserves equal pay, if not more. Absolutely. Because to me, they're more exciting than the men to watch.
Because you know what the thing is that really infuriates me is I was looking at the stats before we came on. You know how many World Cups the women's team has won? 4. You know how many the men have won?
Goose egg.
You know how many gold medals the women's team has won? You know how many the men have won?
Goose egg again.
So it's why are they getting underpaid?
Who made the World Cup? The women. Who failed to make it the last time around? The men.
Why are they getting? Do you guys want to chime in on this? Why are they not getting paid as much as the men are? Listen, it doesn't even have to be a 100%.
You are asking the wrong person. My biggest guess is that they draw more people to the stadiums. They're watching. This one might not be true, but TV, ratings are probably bigger. I don't know. I don't know why. Because to me, I think it's an absolute travesty that in America, where the more popular team for soccer is the women's team,
Absolutely.
They're way better, and they get dirtier than the men. They play harder. They have more grit. They're more passionate. Everyone loves talking about. We love the women's soccer team, and yet they're way behind in the pay gap with the men. It doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. It doesn't make any
Quoting
sense.
Denzel Washington from Philadelphia, this is the essence of discrimination.
It's just not fair, to be honest. We also put big women's sports figures on top of like one of the what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I wouldn't say pedestal, but we look up to them. That's what I'm looking for. Like, and they deserve to get paid equal, if not more, for what they do. Like we look at the U.S. Women's Olympics team, a lot of great role models on there. They do great at what they do, and it's
Olympics are worse.
Agreed. Look at the Olympics. We just don't. Us as Americans, I think we don't give credit where credit is due to the women, and where we need to, because.
And listen, again, I know people are gonna be coming at us like thinking, "Oh, what do you guys know? You're men." But let me tell you something.
We may not know much, but we support it because that's just who we. I'm just a human being, and any human being who is able to uplift America into a frenzy.
Here's the thing.
I'm sorry. They need to be. It needs to be fair.
The women need to be paid equal, because here's the thing. When you were saying they love the U.S. soccer team, I have some neighbors who are very close family friends of mine. Like, I love these people to death. They're like a second family. They love U.S. women's soccer. I remember a couple years ago, the World Cup, when it was played, I think it was in Montreal. Am I correct?
Yes.
Or somewhere. Was it Montreal or somewhere else?
World Cup was across Canada in 2015.
I remember. I think it was for either the semifinals or the finals. They and some other friends from their soccer teams, they literally drove up to Montreal to go see them play.
I would have loved to have done that.
And I think we can all say that's dedication. And the thing is, like, from a practical perspective here, that's like, let's say you run a company. You have two guys. One guy is a slacker, comes into work late constantly. He's not doing anything right. And yet he's getting a higher pay rate. Well, you have another employee who busts his or her hump to get in. Maybe they get in an hour early, they stay late. They're busting their ass. And yet the guy who is like a slacker is getting paid more. Like, in a just and sane world, that would make no sense.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, all I gotta say is for the U.S. women's soccer team, ladies, don't give up.
Yeah,
we're never.
We're behind you. We're behind you 100%.
Because you know what? I hope this gets appealed and goes to a higher court. And listen, we're not sitting here trying to be the, super woke SJW crowd. We just want what's fair and what's right. It's obviously saying that the women who have been doing much, much better than the men. Guys, sorry, and we mean this with the utmost respect. You
stink.
You guys kind of suck. Sorry, it's the truth. Come at us. But this is not about being woke. You know what this is about? This is about what's right, and this is about what's fair. And
agreed.
And this is across the sports landscape in America. This is not just soccer. This is basketball. This is, Olympics. This is hockey. Whatever sport you can name. this is happening across America in the sports.
Because I remember looking
not
a couple
cool.
years ago. This was a while back, so I may not remember everything. I was looking at the price of Knicks tickets and Liberty tickets. Liberty tickets are like downright dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a different. I know it's not a different subject, but that because the WNBA doesn't get credit where credit's due because they're exciting to watch too at times.
Very.
Yeah. So
I'm excited for the Liberty season if it happens this year with their overall first pick. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Sabrina Ionescu.
Yes, very excited.
I saw her. I forget which. Was it Oregon?
Yeah, she's from Oregon.
Yeah.
When you're in MSG, you see the Liberty banners, and they won a championship, I think, in the last 20 years before the Knicks.
But that kind of shows right there. Like, again, like women's sports is underappreciated.
Underappreciated and just as important, too.
They're working just as hard as the men are.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was back when it was World War II, we had the Ladies Baseball League.
A league of their own.
League of Their Own. Great movie. My favorite baseball movies. But you see what they did. They stepped up, and say, we can play ball just like the men. And to me, I think that would be great to have in today's world, a women's professional baseball league.
That would be great.
It would be great to see because that would be awesome to see in this world.
So I know what you guys are going to say. So should the women's soccer team get paid equal more than the men?
Well, we've already said it, and
let's say it together. 1, 2, 3. Yes.
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 How about this?
Yes.
Fuck yes.
All right, Bill dropped the first F-bomb on the show.
Woo! Yes.
And I'm proud of it.
I was waiting for that.
Wait for that first F-bomb. I thought it was
We
going
can
to be
get away
me.
with more stuff on the internet, but we're going to try to keep it a little more. We're going to try our best to keep it more classy.
In that instance, I'll allow it. Absolutely, they deserve it, if not more.
Yeah. So, ladies, again, don't give up. Keep going. Keep fighting. And I hope they appeal this.
There will be an appeal. There has to be.
Again, none of us are lawyers. None of us are legal scholars, so we can't really speak to that matter. And
Well,
if you're trying to understand,
it's always going to be tough. It's always going to be tough for them.
But you know what? You gotta keep fighting. You gotta keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And as Winston Churchill said at his commencement speech in Oxford, never give up.
Never
that's
give
an
up.
actual thing. He was on the stage. He looked at the crowd and goes, never give up. And then he looks at the crowd again and goes, never give up. So bottom of the line, guys, ladies, don't give up. And we're all behind you. Okay, so anything else, or are we good?
Are we good, man?
All right, guys. Again, we like to thank Matt Martell for joining us today.
Yes.
It was a ton of fun, and hopefully he comes back soon.
Yeah, when he can. I mean, I know he's a busy guy, and
He's a busy dude. He works for Sports Illustrated. And
that
we're
season
just
coming
random
up,
people on YouTube and Podbean.
Exactly,
But
so.
again, thanks for coming, buddy. Our YouTube channel, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell. Like us on Facebook. We actually got a Twitter up.
Yeah, baby.
So we'll put the link in our description. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to the channel. Next week, will we have a show? We'll see.
We're going to have a show. Come on.
We'll figure something out.
I have one sports fact for today.
What was
End
that?
the show. I have an idea about each week we end the show with a sports fact that happened on the day of our show. So,
Okay. Do you have a fact
Okay.
now, or?
all right. Today on May 2nd in 1999, John Elway announced his retirement.
John Elway.
And along with that, also on this day in 2015, Pacquiao and Mayweather fought.
Okay.
I remember that fight. I didn't watch it, but
And if you want, and for all your soccer buffs out there, in 2012, Lionel Messi broke the European goal scoring record with 68 goals.
Real messy.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's our show for today, guys. It went on a little longer, but we just had a lot of stuff to get to.
Who cares? It's a podcast. You can go as long as we want.
Yeah, you know what? That's like the advantage of being on here than back when we were on college radio. We could basically do whatever we want.
Oh, when I was on that's why my show was always on Fridays. My 90s and Now show, which was 90s and Now rock music from now to today, but they let me have my show go longer if I wanted. Because I used to do the DCC movies on Fridays.
Hey, be on all day if you want.
Chairman did not care. Shout out to Nick.
Yeah, he actually commented on our video that we put up on YouTube.
He was happy that we're back. And we're glad
you know
to
what,
be back.
Nick? It's good to be back.
It's amazing.
Miss that, man.
All right, guys. We hope you enjoyed. Again, like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter. We're going to put Matt's Twitter in the bio, too, if you want to follow him. And thanks for coming, and we will see you around. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Love you guys. Patch Man out.